Internet. Welcome to Bookworm Reviews. I'm your host, the Bookworm. It doesn't take a genius to see that the world can be a really crappy place sometimes. Just turn on to the news, social networks, YouTube comments, and you will see there is no short supply of stupid and evil people. Feels like nothing ever gets done because no one wants to compromise, leaving the rest of us to wander in an endless gray void, drifting around, hearing the same thing over and over. It's enough to make one cynical at the world. Is there anything that can inspire hope? Ha ha, very funny. It doesn't have to be a real person or place. Just somewhere where we can reconnect with ourselves. Somewhere over the rainbow. What is this week's book anyway? I am a freaking idiot. Sit back and relax as we go over the rainbow with the Wonderful Wizard of Oz by L. Frank Baum.
He's a real nowhere man, sitting in his nowhere land, making all his nowhere plans for nobody. Doesn't have a point of view. No.
When Dorothy stood in the doorway and looked around, she could see nothing but the great gray prairie on every side. Not a tree nor a house broke the broad sweep of flat country that reached the edge of the sky in all directions. The sun had baked the plowed land into a gray mass, with little cracks running through it. Even the grass was not green, for the sun had burned the tops of the long blades until they were the same gray color to be seen everywhere. When Aunt Em came there to live, she was a young, pretty wife. The sun and wind had changed her too. They had taken the sparkle from her eyes and left them a sober gray. They had taken the red from her cheeks and lips, and they were gray also. She was thin and gaunt, and never smiled now. When Dorothy, who was an orphan, first came to her, Aunt Em had been so startled by the child's laughter that she would scream and press her hands upon her heart whenever Dorothy's merry voice reached her ears. And she still looked at the little girl with wonder that she could find anything to laugh at. How many of you know The Wizard of Oz? I thought so. It doesn't surprise me. It's one of the world's most popular stories. Everyone knows the characters, the setting, and the famous lines. That is, everyone who saw the 1939 movie adaptation. Now, how many of you have read the original 1990 book? I thought so. Don't worry, I'm not here to judge. I just find it hard to tell you the plot since the adaptation has the basics down. It follows Dorothy living her life in Gray, Kansas, with her Aunt Em and Uncle Henry, when a cyclone comes roaring through and lifts the house with Dorothy inside. When her house falls back down, she finds herself in a strange land called Oz. But no matter how amazing this land is, it's not Kansas, and wishes to go home. After talking to the Good Witch of the North, she learns of a powerful wizard named Oz, who has the power to send her back home. By following the yellow brick road, she will make strange friends, face powerful enemies, and see some of the most peculiar sights, all so she can go home. I'm not sure how many people have asked, but how did this book happen? It's simply surreal. Talking scarecrows, a tin man, a cowardly lion, good witches, an Emerald City, flying monkeys. Oh my God, there are flying monkeys. Oz is just weird, man. You would think the author was tripping, but from what I found, he's not. The story of how Oz was created is just as fascinating as the book. Far too much for me to cover to keep this review short. But there is a book called Finding Oz that goes into vivid detail about L. Frank Baum's life and how it would lead to one of the biggest impacts on American culture. And I do mean American. It's one of the first things you would know when researching Oz. It is considered the first American fairy tale. So with that, you would think the writing would be amazing. Wrong! Well, I won't say it's bad. Far from it. Product of its time may be a better description. Let's look at today's fantasy. Most good ones have developed characters, a fascinating land to explore, and a deep background so we can dive into the plot. Oz kind of falters on that. Dorothy is not a well-developed character. She knows whom she is and what she needs to do. Throughout the whole book, she stays the same. In fact, the same can be said for pretty much everyone. Outside of the main group, they pretty much stay the same. Everyone is two-dimensional. The same thing can be said about the writing. It's straightforward. It doesn't go into metaphors or allegories. It has several puns that can be groan-inducing. And the conflicts in the book end as fast as they begin. The Wicked Witch is not as scary as she was in the film. Believe me when I say that if you grew up watching the movie as a kid, this book will feel like a hammer to the... Shut up. So, if it's two-dimensional by today's standards, why is it still popular to this very day? Well, the film adaptation for one, but also it has one of the best messages you will find in any book. Now technically, I'm spoiling the book again, but let's be frank. You know how the story goes, and... Ow! What was that for? Well, Tex, if you... What's your name? Okay, Bill. You know this is one of the most infamous stories out there. So most people would know the basic ending. So how can I spoil a book if everyone knows how it ends? Look, Bill, I understand where you're coming from, but in order to get my point across, I need to talk about the ending. No, you are free to let me know if I'm hitting spoiler territory. Just let me get my point across first, and then see if I'm in the right, okay? Thank you. What just happened? So, where were we? Ah, right. Thank you, Bill. You all know the three companions. The scarecrow that wants a brain, the tin man who wants a heart, and the cowardly lion that wants courage. Yet throughout the book, we see them showcase brain, heart, and courage. Yet they don't believe that they have what they want. Then we learn the Great Wizard of Oz is nothing more than a humbug with no powers. However, everyone wants to get what he and she was promised after defeating the Wicked Witch. So the wizard does. He gives the scarecrow brands and needles to make him smart. He gives the Tin Man a silk heart filled with sawdust to make him feel love, and gives the lion a drink that when inside him will become courage. They already showed that they have what they wanted, but lack the self-confidence to believe what we already know. Why? Because the book is about self-belief. How the only way we can do things is by believing in ourselves. But sometimes we need a boost. Some kind of material need to give us the confidence that is already inside. Heck, while Dorothy was confident in herself, she never knew the silver slippers she wore had the power to take her home, because she didn't meet anyone until she talked to Glinda. As the wizard said, "How can I help being a humbug when all these people make me do things that everybody knows can't be done?" Because they imagine I could do anything. It is literally telling us to believe in ourselves without ever saying it directly to our face. For a children's fantasy book from 1900, that is amazing. This is such a good moral for kids to learn, and yet simple enough for them to read on their own. What Alfred Bum created can easily be summed up as being in the right place at the right time. It may be simple, but it's because it is simple that makes it so timeless. It would take me several videos to convey all that makes Oz legendary, but for the sake of time, I want to read you the introduction he wrote. Folklore, legends, myths, and fairy tales have followed childhood throughout the ages. For every healthy youngster has a wholesome and instinctive love for stories fantastic, marvelous, and manifestly unreal. The winged fairies of Grimm and Andersen have brought more happiness to childish hearts than all other human creations. Yet the old-time fairy tale, having served for generations, may now be classified as historical in the children's library. For the time has come for a series of newer wonder tales in which the stereotyped genie, dwarf, and fairy are eliminated, together with all the horrible and blood-curdling incidents devised by their authors to point a fearsome moral to each tale. Modern education includes morality. Therefore, the modern child seeks only entertainment in its wonder tales, and gladly dispenses with all disagreeable incidents. Having this thought in mind, the story of the Wonderful Wizard of Oz was written solely to please children of today. It aspires to be a modern fairy tale, in which the wonderment and joy are retained, and the heartaches and nightmares are left out. Let me tell you something. I'm an optimist. I look to the brighter side of things. I don't try to deny the terrible things going on, but I do believe that good conquers all in the end. Whether or not you agree with me is completely up to you. With books like these, they are my material boost. Whenever life gets to me, I sometimes just want to read something that reminds me to believe in myself, to push through whatever challenge I may face. While this book at first comes off as off-putting, when you go past it, you will find a great story that the young can enjoy, and the old can be reminded of being young. Time for the ratings. For the genre review, I give its children's fantasy a 7 out of 10. This is obviously a kid's book, and one they can attach themselves to. Highly recommend. My personal review is an 8 out of 10. I love the book, both for its message and for its moment in time. It does get wooden and frankly annoying sometimes, but they are more nitpicking than anything else. As for the overall review, well, this one is not easy to pin down. If it's kids, you should enjoy the book, but for adults, it can come off as flat to them. I know I was taken aback at first, but if I'm being honest and taking account of everything, 6 out of 10. This is a book written at a different time that may not appeal to everyone by today's standards. If you are a kid, buy this book. If you are an adult, give it a read and see what you think. This is a really amazing book that would have never been published the way it is today. If something like this were to happen, it would somehow be a reverse harem where Dorothy has to decide between Team Scarecrow, Team Tin Man, and Team Lion. I just ruined it for you all, didn't I? Well, let's not dwell on the past. What's for next week? I have no clue what this book is about. Till next week. Have a nice day.
Nowhere man, please listen.
Oh, I almost forgot. Zardoz reference.
You don't